guys, it's Brooke with SupertutorTV, and today I'm going to do an SAT book review. Before I get started, I just want to encourage you all to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up and comment below. So many of you on a lot of these self-study videos that we recently put out have been asking, what book can I buy for the SAT? What should I use to study? Help, help, help. That's what I'm going to navigate today. I'm going to walk you through sort of all the different books that are out there and go through some of the materials that I like using with my students and also some of the materials that I don't recommend. First and foremost, the number one resource that you all should have is this book. If you're cheap and you don't want to buy the book, all of the material for this book is available for free, totally free online. My caveat to you is if you are going to download the portions of this book for free, I highly, highly recommend that if you're going to take the practice tests, you print them out before you take them. It's a totally different experience when you take a test on paper. And if you really want to prepare yourself, please print out the tests. The other thing I'm going to say is, if you do the tests in this book does not have a grading scale in it. There's also an app from the College Board that allows you to take pictures of the bubble sheets in this book and then upload them and grade them. The next thing that I'm going to say is, in addition to that, there are not very many official materials available for the SAT. The best material you can ever practice from is always official material. Khan Academy has a ton of free prep material, and it is all real, authentic material, and that is your other best friend when it comes to practice. But practice isn't the only ingredient. You also need skill building and you need strategy. And so for that, you necessarily are probably going to need to turn to some books for advice, because you're not going to get it just from this, and you're not going to get it just from the test makers. They're not going to give away all their secrets. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is what I call the big three. And what the big three are the big test brands that all of you have heard of before. So this is basically Kaplan, the Princeton Review, and Barron's. These are the three biggest test prep brands in the market. And overall, what I'm going to tell you guys is I don't recommend any of them for the new SAT. And here's why. Basically, all of these brands were rushing so much to get these new SAT books out. Not all of them did a very good job of adjusting their content to what's actually on the test. The Kaplan, I think, is the absolute worst of all three. I typically find what I would call about 1 to 2 questions on every Kaplan test that are problematic, to say the least, meaning that it's just not the look, tone, and feel of what the actual questions are. So I can't recommend the Kaplan. I also will say the Kaplan has some mistakes in it. It's got at least one math question where the explanation of the math question is totally, utterly wrong, and they actually tell you the wrong method for finding the answer. It also has not great reading questions. I would say there's 2 to 3 per section where I'm scratching my head as a tutor and going, how the heck did you get that answer? And Princeton Review also suffers from issues in the reading section. I would say 1 to 2 questions per section are iffy or dodgy. It doesn't nail the character of the book. And the same with the Barron's. It's just not nailing the character of the new test. In particular, the Barron's is bad in math. They've cut and pasted a lot of their math problems from the old SAT into this new SAT, and they're missing a lot of the problems that are distinctive to the new SAT in the math section. It does have vocabulary flashcards, which is kind of an interesting angle. If you have trouble with vocabulary, that might be of interest to you. Overall, the verdict is do not get these books if you are serious about prepping for the SAT, because they are just not the best materials out there. So you might be asking, well, if I can't buy those 3 big brands of books, then what the heck am I going to get? And the answer is books from independent tutors. The first I'm going to talk about is Erica Meltzer. She's been in the game for a while writing books. She basically had a breakout hit with her SAT grammar book that came out for the old test, and it was hands down the best on the market. She's got a couple of books out there that you might want to check out. One is called The Ultimate Guide to SAT Grammar. Make sure you buy the one for the new SAT, not for the old SAT. She is really good at teaching you basic rules of grammar, meaning subject-verb agreement, pronoun agreement, all that good kind of stuff. What she's not quite as good at is what I would call like paragraph corrections and transitions and those kind of questions that make the new SAT really tough. The other thing that I'm going to say is that generally her practice tests are also not hard enough in my experience. So she's really good at teaching the rules. She's got great little practice sets that are going to help you drill those things so you get good at them, but just be wary that some of her materials may not be challenging enough if you're going for like uber top score. Then she also has a book on the reading section called The Critical Reader, which is like an update of her old book from the old SAT. She has some really great basic reading strategies, especially for the kind of kid who's in like the 550 to 650 range, and you're looking to gain like at least 100 points. She's definitely going to step you through some of those great tips for how to in a basic way, address a passage the right way, and get the right answers. The next book I'm going to talk about is actually a math book. It's called Pawn the SAT. I have not worked with this book, but I have worked with this guy's previous book for the old SAT, and it was pretty good. In general, he speaks for people who want to be overachievers, so that means you're scoring over a 600 and you're looking to really up that score. So if that's you, this might be a good book to check out. The other math book, which I recently got that I like so far, is the College Panda book. He's got math practice tests. He's got a pretty thorough overview. He's definitely including those updated question styles that you are sort of high and dry on if you're using a book like Barron's. In terms of practice, a couple other books that I could recommend too, the Tutorverse. I haven't worked with it myself, but so far it has pretty good reviews and they've got a lot of practice questions. So if you're just looking for practice questions as opposed to like strategy books, that might be a place to turn. Ivy Global, I have worked with this book, which actually was released before the official SAT study guide. It surprisingly is not that bad. What I would say about this is it mirrors the old test a little bit more than it should, but it won't lead you astray, meaning that all of the questions in here are evidence-based and they're well-written. Does it mimic the test perfectly? No. But are there problematic questions? No. So last resource I want to point out is a free book, which is from Varsity Tutors, which has 475 plus practice questions and 75 lessons in it. And it's totally free. It's got pretty good ratings. And so that's another brand that you can throw in your mix. So there are some advantages and disadvantages to independent tutor books and small brands, but above all, I'm going to recommend those much more highly than the three big brands because I think they've just done a better job at mimicking this new test. And these books, unlike these big brand books, are written by people who are generally at the top of their field that are in the battlefield, working with students face-to-face, one-on-one, day in, day out, who are dealing with these tests. So they know what are the hardest questions on these tests. Because like me, they're sitting across from kids who don't get it and are asking questions, and they know which questions in this book kids ask over and over and over again, just like I do. So they're going to be your best guides to this test. Most of these books are going to focus on one subject at a time. So you're going to have to get a reading book, a language book, and a math book, at least. And you may even have to get 4 books because you might also want to get a book on the optional essay. So you might have to buy 4+ books. It's a little bit more expensive, but you're going to get a lot more out of it. And then finally, I'm just going to give you 2 brands that I don't recommend, and that's Peterson's and McGraw-Hill. I have not worked with their books on the SAT, but from working with a lot of different tests over the years, I have not found that those brands consistently put out the best materials for test prep. Above all, my recommendation on this front is mix up your brands. You want to get a couple books so that you're doing one practice test over here and another practice test in a different brand so that you get 2 people's perspectives on how these questions would be spooled, etc. College Board materials are going to be best, but there's only so much to go around and there's only one book. So inevitably, these books come into play and they do have value. So subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check out our website, SupertutorTV.com, and we will see all of you guys next time. Bye-bye.